Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Paranormal, the New Normal, the show where we try to make this world seem a little more normal every day. We've been failing at it for 3 years, so let's keep failing, because you don't succeed unless you fail eventually. So, today, I know, 2-in-1 weekend, I'm spoiling you guys that are not doing recordings for months, but my guest today is Mark Christensen. He is a creator of something called the Fungus Theory, and I know you're thinking, what the hell is that? Well, we're going to find out. So, welcome, Mark. Glad to have you on the show.
Hey, glad to be here. Thank you very much for having me on.
No, my pleasure.
Sorry.
That's all good. As I told you previously, I love hearing about new theories. So, anytime I get a new theory that wants someone with a new theory they create that wants to come on the show, I am always down to hear it. So, let's get into it. What made you want? What made you want to come up with this theory?
That's a good question. I didn't want to. I was, I'm a science fiction film writer and director, and had been working on a screenplay for about 20 years. And in trying to make science fiction concept a reality, I ended up becoming an extremely deep thinker about about evolution in general. And it dawned on me all at once that all of life, all the life that we see and are in, is one large fungus. And I'm a conceptual thinker. I would say that I think in concepts. So that hit me like a ton of bricks, and I thought for a while, wow, what a concept that really seems real. And I'm not going to go get a degree in science to go prove all this at my age. And I kept telling myself, I kept chanting this thing like, it's not that simple, Mark. This concept you dawned on you it's just not that simple. And eventually, once you gravitate to a new idea that becomes you can't undo it. You can't stop thinking about it. So I started the research on it, and I literally felt like I was channeling for about 3 years straight. Every bit of science research, I just was really unraveling the reality of this very basic concept that everything is one large fungus. And then I learned that if that's true, then humanity is the spore, and that's where it finally started to make sense.
Interesting. Well, why don't you explain this theory to me, mostly, and my audience as well,
Sure.
as because human beings being spores, I kind of like that idea, and I'm trying to get a little more detail on it.
Awesome. Thank you, fellow spore. There's two actually the two realities that make us a spore. One is that multicellular life originated from one single fungus. That's all there was on Earth was bacteria, which evolved into a fungus. And for about 1 billion years, that's all there was on the planet. And this is all in science. This is not me making it up. You can go look it up yourselves. So there are missing links, but if you filled in the links, it would still make sense. And for that first 1 billion years that fungus was trying to adapt to this planet, and the compositions of the bombardment period of which made this planet, and the reason why that they use fungus is because of that adaptational process in the beginning of life. So the makeup of this fungus was half plant and half animal. There were both. And today, if you properly cook a portobello mushroom, it tastes like meat. So even today, it's still kind of half plant and half animal. Today, mushrooms are. But back then, 2 billion years ago, all there was on Earth were 25-foot mushrooms. It was a mushroom land, like Alice in Wonderland mushroom land, the whole planet. And that's all there was. And there was a reason for that. And it also rained for millions of years, if you can imagine that. It was a completely cloud-covered planet. it rained for millions of years. There was no sunlight. And so you would need fungus to start the growth anywhere on any planet. And that's what happened here on Earth. And so that also, when those mushrooms corrode and erode with the gravel and minerals that the Earth was bombarded with, it turns into soil. And you can't grow a single fern without soil. So this is a very practical process. So let's say that there's a split in this fungus. The plant life split away and went and did what it needed to do on land and water, but just picture land. And the other half split away from fungus, which was animal, split away from fungus and became what we call ocean life. So there's three elements now. There's plant, animal, and fungus. And that's all there was at one period of time, 2 billion years ago. So if you can picture that, you have plant life on Earth growing into forestry eventually, and then you have animal life in the ocean forming a vertebrae and a head. And it was almost impossible even today to live for very long in the ocean. It forced amphibious life, and amphibious life became four-legged, and then eventually bipedalism, which is you and I. And the concept is that bipedal animal walks over to what evolved last in the plant world, which is vegetables. That's kind of strange and timingly, but that two-legged animal went over and a tomato and it's eating itself. If you wanted to go all the way back to the same single animal that it was at the beginning, both plant and animal, it's just a self-consuming, cannibalistic feeding process. And there's a reason for that. And that is that you can't detect your true original origin through all this evolution. You can't go back and find it. And that in itself is a construct. So that you and I today, as smart as we get, cannot discover our true origin. And that's very important. That's why we're motivated to have a podcast.
Well, yeah. I mean, a huge topic on this podcast is where we came from. I mean, it's been talked about a lot in the last 300 plus episodes of the show, and
awesome.
a lot of times extraterrestrials are thrown into that. A lot of times there's a creator. Depends on who you're talking to, but there's multiple theories out there for it. This is a new one to me. This is
actual science. It's not the very little theory about the book, but to be polite to people in science, you have to call everything a theory. But it's really a book of evidence, facts, evidence, and historical events that are really starting to show what's really happened here. And it's expanded Darwinism is another way of looking at it. So where we came from, yeah, that's physiologically how we arose to be humans. Now, what makes us a spore of this large fungus that is still here, by the way? When you see a lizard, you're seeing your predecessor that was necessary in order for you to eventually stand up one day and have a conversation. Or any animal, you're seeing the aft of evolution of that previous moment. For instance, the reptilian period had to happen before somebody can be standing up. You and I, before it's all about brain growth too, is another way of looking at it. So all these animals are reproducing to eventually get a brain to be large enough to where you and I can recognize that, hey, our parents are not the, where we came from. The parents came from someplace, and then we can't figure out where anything else came from. So you have to be smarter to make that identification. And we're thinking that that's Homo sapien. So Neanderthal did not have a brain capable of seeing that, and Homo sapien could. And the reason why we're a spore, more importantly, is because you and I are the only animal capable of leaving Earth before its timely end, which Earth is going to end for sure. Every star out there explodes. One explodes every 60 seconds that we can see. And really, there's a star exploding every second. So we're rotating around one. So it's inevitable. It's a system. It's a quote unquote solar system, right? And anything within that solar system, within that time frame of existence, is systematically governed by that solar system. See? So what is the system doing? Why have a system? Well, generate something intelligent and enforce it to survive the end of it. It's doing end. And what a great concept that is, actually. But what else is there? And it's also a growth product. It's conscious growth. So consciousness, as we use it today in human society, is basically we think, oh, we've got to arrive to a higher consciousness as opposed to a lower one. Well, that's true in a sense, but you can't do it during your lifetime because you are that just level today, and that's it. So we're more conscious than the Egyptians, we're more conscious than the Romans, and so we're this conscious today. But in 1,000 years from now, humanity will be way more conscious than we are today because it's a growth process, not just being conscious, but we're in a growth process. It's so slow, you can't recognize it as a growth process.
Which makes, I mean, that does make sense. And I mean, but if we as human beings are these spores, as we said earlier, then what's the point of like humans? Like, what's our purpose on Earth if we're just these? I mean, are we just meant to thrive here until we no longer can, and then find a way off this planet? Or, I mean, are we supposed to
Well,
try to save the planet?
that's a great question. An easy answer. Because you've been created, right? You know you have a creator. And that's all you need to know. But you do know that for sure. If you're not agreeing to that, then I think that and anybody should really do some, deep thinking or uh, or they're being biased with their view, which is it's a safety for their ego. But uh, because you've been created, right? That's a reality. I've been created. I didn't do this. I have a creator. So that's all the God you need to know. And what that God probably did this is a scenario. He's very bored, or maybe it's a group of people very bored. And they want more smart people. Well, you can't wave a magic wand and just have these people appear. You have to grow them. They have to grow into their capability of being very smart. So this is how you would do it. You would explode this matter in an expanding cold dark vacuum where light can suspend itself for a very long time in order to incubate these little what I petri planets. It's like a petri dish that are so random and so rare that on their own they would grow into this intelligent life form that could escape that petri planet before its demise. And why would this creator leave it up to you and I to uh, to regulate that process? We'd go to the beach. We'd do something else, and it's not a comfortable trip. Life's pretty tough. So they're not, whoever designed this process is going to rely on you to make it a success. So we're just a consequence to it, and we are going along. That's what we are. If you are a something, you can't be anything else. So we're made to build consciousness one human being at a time.
Which
And
makes, which I
and,
get
and
that.
yeah, so the enforcement of the doomsday planet, which we're on, it's on the calendar. The end of Earth is on the calendar. It always has been. And really, the biological life is really the calendar, right? Because when there's no more biological life, there's no more you to really contemplate anything. So the Earth's calendar is 9 billion years, but the biological calendar is really only about 5. And we scientists have estimated that in about 300 million years, the equator is going to start boiling. And when that happens, it's going to be a quick greenhouse effect that's going to turn us into Venus pretty quickly. And if you've ever been to Venus, you wouldn't survive there for more than about 8 seconds. So that is for sure. This is for sure coming. And in about 300 million years. That's the biological time window. It's called necrobiosis, the process of slowly eliminating all biology. So with that ahead of us, we have to get out of here. And if we're successful getting out of here, whether it's a spaceship or even Mars or another planet, then we would be considered the spore of the fungus that we left behind for incineration. Theoretically and metaphorically, because that's what's absolutely ahead of us. So it's up to mankind to just continue surviving these stressors until we are out of danger. So there's two things that make us a spore. We all came from an original fungus, and because we leave Earth, that's very sporadic. It's called it's diaspora is the process, the human diaspora from this Earth.
I mean, it makes sense in a way because we all heard of our whole life, like the idea in science class in elementary school, that when animals die, they become part of the soil, and eventually, so we basically are feeding our own planet, like by dying on it. And why do you think we put ourselves in the ground? It's to feed our planet. Because I mean, unless you're cremated, then you're not doing anything. You're just wasting your time. But we need to. I mean, the plant needs to be fed by something, and that's been getting fed by all the dead plants and animals for generations now, millions of generations.
Well,
So I
why
mean,
that system?
this
Yeah, so you're right. But why choose that system to have human beings live on it? Because any other way of feeding you and I and all the other animals would be a giveaway to true origin. And once you and I discover true origin, we're done. We're going to go home. I'm not going to wait to get a cancerous tumor. I'm not going to hit us. I'm going home, and it's cold here, or whatever. See, so hiding true origin is the sole purpose of the expansion of matter, and it's that is the factory that grows consciousness by hiding true origin from what can eventually be capable of discovering it or discovering that they can't find it. And that is what I call the void of psychosis. So, do you want me to get that? Or is it?
well, yeah, because I was gonna ask. I'm like, who wants to hide the origin? Like the only person that would want to do that is the creator slash creators, or based on whatever you believe.
Right,
So I mean,
right.
which I mean, I actually just had a guest on yesterday, and we were talking about how we actually talked about how there were 5 main extraterrestrial races that created humanity in a way. And I've had other discussion. I've had other discussions about it where it's one creator, where it's societies of creators basically that want to create us. It always depends on who you're talking to and what their beliefs
Yeah.
are. But I think there being so many different beliefs out there could be a way to hide the true origin.
I love all those theories that at panspermia and all this, and that were engineered from Somalia and the Anunnakis. I mean, I love all that stuff because I'm a sci-fi writer. But I know the difference between, because of that, I know the difference between imaginative science and actual science now. It Panspermia or the construction from another alien life form, it seems unfair that evolution on this planet can't be accountable for its own evolutionary process. That's one thing. And I don't think you can get a human being to evolve. And another thing, there would be some type of evidence for us, because it's unfair not to have the evidence. So we would have it. The evidence we do have is just evolution, our bones and the way that the carbon dating of everything really shows us what's really going on. We would have more evidence of it. It's really us suffering from the void of psychosis, they implant those ideas with less evidence that we are planted here, grown. But I will say this, that we do have evidence of UFOs. I mean, really, we do. Don't you agree?
Oh God, we've had evidence of UFOs since Roswell, but it's just been hidden until recently.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing about that is that they can't fully expose us without destroying us. So they know that, and so does the government. And the reason why they're coming here is potentially this: that if it is that you uh, build a biosphere so that something intelligent can grow and survive its end, which is an enforced process. So it's like you have to finish high school, so you have to get off the planet eventually. And if if the potential is there that we're not going to be successful with that, a meteorite hits, we don't develop enough technologies to leave the planet, and everything burns with the planet. I mean, what, that everything's doomed right now. You and I, all of our is doomed. It's done. If we can develop the technologies to one day leave with the story of everything that was, then we would be a success. See? So maybe the aliens are here to help as galactic ecologists, ensure that we don't self-annihilate. And think about it, those aliens are just humans that had to leave their planet billions of years ago. So, right? So they know there's plenty of planets that are not successful at their diaspora, right? So we need to help Earth reach its diaspora. So what else is there to do in space when you're an alien in your spaceship? Probably just to assure that other planets uh, reach their diaspora period and are a successful contribution to conscious growth, post-terrestrial conscious growth.
Hmm. I mean, if there are other extraterrestrials out there, then I would think they'd also be worried about what happens when we do leave the planet and when we get out there like them, like what's gonna happen with them, because we're not the nicest race in the world in the universe. That's for damn sure. So what's gonna happen when we go find there's more out there? I mean, I think the movie Avatar is exactly what's going to happen. We're going to try to conquer and take over places.
Um, yeah, that's a common next thought, which is awesome. Uh, but the fragility of organic existence is way more fragile than we're considering it. And Elon talks about this a lot. He talks like, God, wouldn't it be great if we can assure that the survival of Earth's consciousness by basically he's doing that. He's doing to Mars. But even that is a temporary place, and it's probably just a stepping stone and being able to leave the solar system completely, which is what the goal is. Well, if it isn't the goal, it should be the goal because everything's doomed. I mean, in a positive way, because it's what motivates us to continue and become smarter. And once we leave the planet, we'll be a matured consciousness. But as long as we stay on the planet, we're a premature consciousness. It's only when you've established full accountability for your biosphere, which is your spaceship, and the genetic engineering possible to live in that spaceship forever. That's called biological accountability. And you basically replace God in a way, if you want to look at it like that, so that you can survive on your own. What a great concept it is that we have a complete and total task to achieve. And I hope this is making sense. I hope I'm not getting too scattered about it because it's a
Oh
lot
no,
of
it's
evidence. And
it's it's making sense because another common topic on the show is spiritual awakenings, which I mean we are. There's been a couple in the last 50 years or so, and we are in the midst of a big one right now. I mean, a lot of people are attributing it
it's
to the
like
age of Aquarius, the age of Aquarius just starting. But part of that spiritual awakening is as people start waking up and activating themselves and thinking more about these types of things. So, I mean, when you say we'll be at a more mature state when we leave the planet finally as a conscious, maybe this is what the spiritual awakenings would be leading towards, is us being more consciously mature.
No, that's an interesting way of looking at it. That it happens in spiritual awakenings one after another, and that would make sense too, because it is about our spirit, and human inspiration is emotional spirituality, and the inspiration and the need to constantly survive is the drive, uh, and when you think about it, when it becomes permeated within the entire culture, this doomation is was here before humans were here. I mean, the plan was to destroy what you build. So we build this biosphere and destroy it. And when you acknowledge that, you get this inspiration, an emotional inspiration to survive that threshold, and that's what inspires humans to keep. I think it. You could look at it like, well, what other plane is there in order to inspire humans, other than a total, you know, even your own
Exactly.
life ends. Yes, even your own life ends. You can just magnify that into a single globe as one death as well. And we all activate ourselves and participate in the survival of it as best we can. We're trying to live long as we can, to be around our friends and relatives as long as we can, and just participate in life as long as we can. And eventually, we're going to be able to do that for a very long time.
Well, that's the other part of it too, is that eventually we're supposed to, I mean, you see it in all the sci-fi shows out there, whatnot. Eventually we will evolve into this point where we no longer need physical bodies, where we're just a consciousness floating around, basically. And we become basically like clouds in a way, almost.
Yeah, I battle with that one too. I think that organic life is the only threatened existence, and that's that threat and that stressor that causes you to become more conscious. So uh, to become, we're a part machine. All machines have a failure rate. Anything mechanical. So I don't think we're going to become, what do you call it when you have a robot eye or a robot brain? Part of you is a robot. It's going to fail for sure. It's organics that evolve will always overrule the continuation of things, because eventually, hardware and mechanical things always fail. So I think that will always be bones and flesh in order to experience that constant threat. This is the stressor that's made us become who we are today and what we will need to be in the very end. If you're looking at it in the sense that the universe is here to grow consciousness to its maximum.
I mean, it's you're right. It's one of those things that's not 100% easy to wrap your head around at first. You have to really think about this and be like, huh,
Yeah.
it does make sense in some degrees, and in some degrees, like, it just doesn't feel like it fits, but it would. I mean,
It's curriculum stuff. So let's try and stay on the fun stuff. I know, and I see you doing that. But how do you file all this stuff quickly? Um, so we'll try and stay on the fun stuff, so it remains intriguing. Uh, and so in general, what makes sense to me with this study is that it's about growing consciousness to whatever that maximum is.
well,
And how you do it, really quickly, how you do that is you have an organic entity that can easily easily die, constantly try to survive that death all the way to the end. And if there were a window of how to get it to grow to its maximum, it would be the beginning of light and the end of light. And those are the books that we're gauging on. Uh, so from the beginning of light to the end of light, you have all that time to grow to your maximum. And at the end of light, what else is there? It's just you staring out of a spaceship into darkness. You don't know where you're going to or coming from anymore. And all you really can see is your hand and blackness.
Which sounds like a great episode of Love, Death, and Robots. It really does. I mean, that last scene does sound like straight out Love, Death, and Robots. But it's funny that you mentioned Mars as like being the first place we go, because I mean, I know as a sci-fi trope, like a lot. I believe Star Trek's the prominent example of this, I believe, but it's been done on other shows as well. That Mars is always the first planet we try and colonize, and then we eventually spread our like seeds into the rest of the universe. Which
exactly.
And that amuses me because there's a great theory out there that we came from Mars, that there's a theory out there that we were running from Mars when we came to Earth because Mars was dying, it's in the state it is now, where it's a dead planet basically, but a planet that still was able to survive in space, but life cannot, unless life is below ground, it cannot survive. Which there's theories of that too. We won't go down that wormhole because that's a long wormhole, but.
Yeah, but there's fragments of Mars on Earth, right? There's fragments of Mars. We found them.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so why wouldn't some of those microbes that we just discovered, if that's the extent of life on Mars, those microbes could have bounced over to here and then ignited life? I mean, it's a great fun concept.
It is. It's a very possible and fun theory. But here's the thing, though: if we're trying to get to the point of higher consciousness, aren't we impeded by the technological advances we created that distract us from growing consciously and just keep us basically in a zombie-like state, staring at our phones, TVs, tablets, what have you?
Well, here's some fuel for that. We're not trying to reach a higher consciousness. We actually are the higher consciousness if you look at previous history. So consciousness grows so slowly, and for a good psychological reason, is so that you don't know that you actually are the growth of consciousness. Another way to look at it is, if you could identify yourself as a piece of growth of consciousness, then you would never do the things that it would take to grow consciously, which is technology. So as you see the evolution of technology, which I've done a lot of, and there's a guy named James Burke. Do you remember James Burke from the 80s with Connections 1 and 2?
I know the name. I can't say I've ever studied him, but I know the name.
Oh man, this guy is the guy who seeded fungus theory for me. I didn't know it, but I just was so intrigued by how he was able to connect every invention with another invention, and in layers. You couldn't invent one without the other, and that's the way it is. Look at the evolution of inventions. You'll see that a conscious awareness evolves from that next invention of technology. And you can only become more conscious and more aware through the development of technology. It's linear together. For instance, the seatbelt is a great example, because it wasn't until 1965 that the US implemented the seatbelt law. So it's just a belt, a lap belt. But people were now hitting their heads on the steering wheel and dying just from small impact. So they put a strap on, on the shoulder, and that worked out great. And then eventually airbags. Well, why don't you start with an airbag? Why doesn't the ODA do that? Well, because there wasn't ballistics and controlled ballistics that can process that, or the fiber bags that were able to contain those ballistics when they implemented the law for the lap belt. So you literally cannot just go invent stuff. It's layered, and becoming more conscious also comes with that new invention by becoming aware. So how many people had to die in airplanes before it became a safe process? Well, plenty, and they're all contributors to the safety of air flight today. Because and without that, let's just say you had to have a number of how many people would have perished in aircraft crashes in order to achieve safety, because you have to be consciously aware from the disaster. And it's so tragic, when you see loss of life like that it does something to the human being to become so inspired to really get down to the bottom of saving lives. And that is the ignition of human inspiration. We wouldn't have human inspiration without it. It's a catch-22. But we become more just more aware through each stage of technology. So we can't go leaping to this higher consciousness. If
I mean,
if this
yeah.
if Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it's another classic sci-fi trope. But a society advances too fast, and they just reach their end faster because I mean, a lot of people thought the A bomb would be like when we did that, when we completely ended up wiping ourselves out. It was a fear. It's still a fear to this day that once every country hits that button, we're just gonna wipe ourselves out. Like we're gonna be gone, and except for
Yeah,
maybe a few survivors that managed to get into bunkers in time and whatnot. But it's so
the Cold War feel.
yeah. I mean, why? So why did our consciousness develop this? If I mean, what did our consciousness develop that idea of mass destruction as like a warning system, kind of like, no, don't do this. Like, don't try to avoid this at all costs. Otherwise, you're gonna make the timeline move too fast.
Well, well, I'm trying to go too long on this explanation. Uh, because because you're referring to present time constantly, which is all you can do because you haven't been steady at any of this. But present time is only present during that time. So let's say Renaissance period of time. There was present time back then. So you can only focus on that present time and projecting and looking at history, and the projecting was limited. So you and I are doing that today. But to get out of the present time analogy of that, what what is the fungus's primary goal? You keep referring to that, and you're going to answer almost every question. What and can you tell me so far what is the fungus's primary goal?
Survival, it seems like, but
Well, absolutely. That's all you need to say, but it's surviving the end of Earth. It's evolving into something capable of doing that. But we're not there yet. If we left today, we could probably live for 100, you know, 100, 200 years in space and perish because we're not genetically capable of living in a spaceship. And the spaceship wouldn't last that long either. So we're not ready. Um, so we need to build technologies. So what is that? And in my book, I have a character called the Tin Can Man and the Tin Can. And the reason why I minimize this is because really, Earth is completely doomed. Everything is going to fry unless we develop a tin can and ourselves to get inside it. So it's the tin can and the tin can. And all you need is one that can reproduce itself and carry off with the story memory of all that was, right? Just one. Okay, a million in a big spaceship would be great. Everybody can't go. It's a Ozark kind of thing. Not everybody can go. But if you can get one, then to live it for eternity in space, then we've succeeded. So that is really the fungus's primary goal. So what kind of technologies do we need in order to achieve that? Well, one of them is controlling nuclear fusion, because
yeah,
it's a part of the evolution of all the technology. We're a part of this evolutionary thing, and the quest to solve everything constantly is a really wonderful human trait, but that isn't possible. And weirdly enough, in theory, if you try to improve the system we're in today, then we would never achieve our goal. See, we are it growing all the time, doing what it's supposed to do. You don't want to improve that. It's about defending ourselves in a combatant world that forces us to develop these technologies to get off the planet in time. And it's happening without us really consciously doing it. It's weird to see it
it's.
that
I
way.
mean, yeah, it's a trippy. Definitely a trippy idea, and it's. I mean, I feel like we are headed in that direction where we're gonna have to leave the planet at some point in the future. I don't think it's definitely not the near future, but in the future we will have to probably 20, 30, 40 generations from now at least. But it's, I mean, it's bound to happen.
Well,
But
let's look at the reality. In 300 million years, the oceans start to boil, and before then, we have the decay of biology, and the planet will heat up so much. I mean, in 100, the planet will be so hot that humans will have to go underground to survive. It's called the Burrow Revolution, because the radiation at that time will just kill it, starting to kill everything. And so plant life will die off first, and then you have animal on animal, which is us too, eating a chicken, until we go underground. Once we go underground, then it's only mycelia in the ground. It's mushrooms again, and we become kind of a mushroom in the ground again. And how do you survive there for thousands of years? Well, that's the preparation for becoming the tin can man, and building the tin can becomes you're solely focused on that now. It becomes a Noah's Ark concentration underground. See, this is inevitable. It's not theoretical. We do know this is coming. So we hope that that's the way it goes. Because Jeremy, I can give you some other options. There could be a comet hit or a meteorite hit, at any time,
yep,
that will put us into a snowball Earth very, very quickly. And then who knows, and the people on the ground, like you suggested earlier, are going to survive that. So then you're going to have like moles coming out of the ground and restarting Earth again with the seed bank in the Antarctica seed bank. Have you heard of that?
yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons supposedly that Antarctica is so well guarded by every country on Earth. I mean, there are a lot of other theories as to why Antarctica is guarded so much, but the seed bank is the public one at least.
Yeah, and we don't know what else is in there, but that's a great concept. Why make such an effort? Because we can self annihilate. There's another way we can go quickly. So we're hoping that this silver is the window we have. It's the longest window we have to prepare ourselves to leave Earth. And then there's pandemics. There's all kinds of things that can, even a solar flare could just like burn us up. You know,
Yeah,
something blowing up in space that just fries us. There's evidence of this in Egypt, and they're thinking that the change of government that happened in Egypt was surviving a solar flare, and it's there's proof on rocks that and the structures there that this heat came on only one side and fried everything. So that's this one theory, but there's six things that can really aid us. We're hoping that it's a slow burn that forces us to leave.
yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, why would we want to rush it and then have even worse off than we are going to be at that point? Like that, no one
Right.
would hope for that. I don't think. But in
And,
in
and,
your
and,
book,
and the Yeah. Oh, really quick. The aliens know that this is happening to us. So they know because they're from the dead planet. So go ahead.
yeah, it makes sense they know that. I mean, that's why they're watching us. They're seeing if we can figure out what they didn't figure out, and maybe they'll come down and help. It's possible. It's logical that they would do that if they want to help another species
Yeah.
survive and then maybe co-inhabit a planet. I mean, who the hell knows?
Yeah.
But it's it's a theory, that's for sure. But in your book, you mentioned something called slime mold, and since we talked about all this now, I'm like, what the heck is a slime mold? Like, what is that going to end up being?
Well, it's probably the very first fungus. It's a single-celled fungus. So yeah, you have amino acids, archaea, um, eukaryota, and then what we call protista, prokaryota and protista. And these are the evolutions of bacteria into the original fungus. So we think that the protista is the plant and animal fungus in the beginning. Um, that probably was slime mold, single celled, not multicellular, which you have to become before you can really evolve any animal beings, not a cell, but animal life. So The single-celled slime mold, what that does is when you study those, each cell communicates to another cell. It's like branching off, and each cell will eventually, formulate, looking for food is basically all it's doing. And it's amazing how fast it looks for food. And when it finds it, the rest of everybody knows where the food is because they're communicating to one another independently. Single cell slime mold. It's amazing to watch it. You should look it up on the internet. And that veracity of behavior is the same as if you look at society today. Everything that gets a piece of information reacts to that. A good example of that is most popular songs don't come from a record company. It comes from the alley, from street life. And it ends up in small studios and then bigger studios, and then bigger record companies go, there it is, put it on the air, $1 million. So that sense of communication has no regulatory aspect to it. It's just going from one mind and inspires one mind to another mind, and then it becomes this piece of conscious growth that ends up in a song. It's the same way that slime mold communicates with one another.
Makes sense.
So, yeah, it's a neat observation.
And I actually run a music podcast too, so I like the music analogy. But, so, I mean, if we're supposed to hit this conscious growth as a society, what can one person do? Like, if one person wanted to help, like, get us to this that inevitable end goal, then what does like a single person have to do to make it better?
That's always a great question. Better. Yeah, that's a great question, because all consequence to this condition. The only thing that has helped me as an individual understanding this is that a lot of stress has left my body, and it's just been very comforting to know something about my existence. And I hope that it's everybody else, that calm state of understanding your place in organic growth, because there isn't really anything you can actually go do. There is no real call to action other than building an understanding. If the conscious plateau that we're at today came from everybody acknowledging their experiences in life, right? You have a collective conscious within your mind. It's called your subconscious. And then there's a global socialized conscious subconscious. So I'm fingering off. I'm trying to stay basic. But we've reached a plateau through all the other layers and years of consciousness becoming more conscious aware through technology to today. You can't accelerate that. You're in as a very small contributor to the massiveness that it is, and we need everybody. And one more element is the void of psychosis. So because you don't know where you came from originally, you have a break in your concrete identity. So you kind of have a nervous system that makes you go out and perform actions, and these actions help signify the lack of identity that you have. It's like an identity void. So you go out and you become a plumber. I know who I am. I'm a plumber, yeah. Or I'm a crook. Yeah, that's what I see. Do you see how that has to happen to each human? And this is instilled in the lack of original origin. If you knew where you really came from, you wouldn't be doing that if you knew where you really came. So you can see that it's an instilled mechanism to enforce the action of people. And to get into your question, we need every single one of us contributing. And it's bizarre to say that every action committed is a contributor to the growth of consciousness. So in a bizarre way, Charlie Kirk, bless his soul, was a great contributor to the expansion of consciousness, good or bad. And so is his killer. It's strange to see it work like that, but it's a positive takeaway to understanding that we are all so much more conscious from not only Charlie, but his killer. The system we're in is the system that's working. And if you improve it, we might not get off the planet in time.
I mean, I get that. I mean, and way to keep it topical. I, I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. And so, actually, and this has kind of been a question that's been eating in my head for the last couple minutes now. What? So, if a human being decides to end their life early, is that contributing,
Yeah.
or is that taken away from the global growth consciousness?
Every action is not only is two things. It's a self-signifying device, and it's also a pure message. Every single act committed. So that's a yes to it all. And that's strange you bring up suicide, because the leading of death, not heart attack or cancer, it's suicide. So why that? Why is that the case? Because the way I'm putting it together is that when it's imposed on you to live these 75 years. Let's just look at it like that. It's an imposition. There is joy, but it's like if you went to prison and you were in a small cell for the rest of your life, but somebody gave you a coloring, uh, crayons and a coloring thing. You wow, joy. So your whole life here, as easy it is for you to perish in an accident at all, you accept the joys that are available here, and you accept that as your platform to exist in. But but it's not totally unfair to you. So you're imposed on these 75 years. Now what are you going to do? It's an imposition, but you do have one choice. You don't have to do it. You know, well, you don't have to do it. And you and I and everyone who is an adult, are living in a kind of a postponed suicide. We thought about it at one time. We're like, oh no, I'm going to do that. So we made a choice to continue rather than that already.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely made a choice, and most of us were still here talking, so obviously we made that choice to keep thriving, keep trying to move on forward. But
Yeah.
well, this is the time in the show where I think it's time we talk about the end game. So if we do achieve this maximum growth consciousness as a planet, what's it going to show us?
Yeah.
What's the purpose of us hitting that?
Yeah. So it's an enforced process. There's no way around it. We have to do that. So the primary goal, we are the fungus. We are the spore of the fungus trying to achieve this primary goal because we're forced here to do that. After that, what you can imagine anything you want. We go to the edge of the solar system, look back at the sun and watch it engulf the earth, whoosh, gone, and go, whew, that's close, now you're in our spaceship. Now what are we gonna do? There's that. And then there's the incorporation of the Galactic Federation, if you want to call it that. Before we leave, we are capable of coexisting with other alien life forms that have succeeded. And that's what I like to look at. So that it might be 100,000 years from today that we commingle finally. And when we're ready to accept them into our life, and usually it's got to be something tragic that gets an entire human culture to agree with something that used to be frightening, but you have to have a huge need for it. So after a couple of comet hits, snowball Earth or whatever, and technology is advanced to the point where we're like, hey, somebody save us from this, whatever it is, then the aliens are going to understand, well, they need this really bad. For instance, it's a good example. Indigenous tribe. There's one that they tried flying the helicopter over to see them. They're shooting bows and arrows at the helicopter, right?
Yep.
So what if you landed there? What if you landed there, gave them the keys to the helicopter? They would just dismantle it. they wouldn't be able to do anything. So that's the same thing as a the flying saucers that are landing here. We're indigenous to that as a tribe, and I'm getting away from the original question. I'm sorry.
I like where you're heading though, because I mean, the fact that you bring up the Galactic Federation kind of made me smile
Yeah,
because that's something that's been talked about on this show a lot. And I mean, I am a full
awesome.
believer that I'm a full believer that there is a Galactic Federation out there that just, as Marvel put it, Earth is a dirtball planet and they want nothing to do with us yet. They are prohibited from actually meeting us. They're prohibited from actually interfering with our growth because they were not ready for it as a society.
It, it's pretty typical logical thinking if you think about it. They've come here as ancient aliens, knowing that we're that guy that would shoot bow and arrows at them, at that helicopter, that spaceship, and still to this day. I mean, we just shot a Tic Tac. Did you see that coverage?
I did not see that. No.
Oh no, you got to look it up. In 2024, we locked in. It was a drone about off the shores of Yemen, and the drone was watching it, and another drone shot at it, and you could
Hmm.
see the missile hitting it and bouncing off it. It's incredible. And then out from it comes three like probes that are going, okay, who just hit me? And so you have four objects flying, came out like protectors, like our flares that come out of our helicopters. It's got its own things. It is absolutely sci-fi, not from the world stuff. Um,
Interesting. That's
so there's a huge piece of evidence. You should check it out. This is
I can't.
incredible.
I honestly can't believe that someone has brought to my attention yet. I'm honestly surprised by that. But
It's all it
it
was on the news last week. So uh, if that's the case, then they're here with their drones, you know, checking it out, figuring out what it's all about. They can't come down and land their helicopter. We'll just attack it. We just attacked it. So they know
it,
better. Yeah.
I mean,
And we'll be
it would
ahead.
it would have to be covert, and they would have to meet particularly with world leaders and whatnot first to. And I think that's people keep saying 2027, 2030 are supposed to be big years for humanity, and I mean, I think it has something to do with that. A lot of people do. A lot of people think it's when arrival will actually happen, and they'll be talking
Yeah.
to world leaders, and then if they talk to the right ones, the world leaders will bring the rest of humanity into it on a level where it doesn't make us instantly scared. They'll introduce them slowly enough where our minds can handle
Right.
it.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
those of us who are not like me, and me, I would just be out there shaking their hand immediately, like, "Hey, I got so many questions for you guys."
that's what I think too. You and I would be capable of that, but I'm also thinking that I would be shivering to just approach more than 10 feet. Just it would be bizarre experience. I would be out of body in my own head. As much as I would condition myself to handle it, I think I would be having less experience.
Most
Um,
likely,
yeah, most likely. And the thing is that what they can contribute can destroy us. Remember that from looking at history, we are growing more consciously from our own technology. And I think that the aliens know that we have to continue that path of growing consciously through our own technological growth for thousands of years. They're monitoring us so we don't blow ourselves up. And there's a lot of evidence of them shutting down nuclear warheads during war times.
yeah,
A lot. I mean, so that's evidence that these aliens know that there's other Earth-like planets that have blown themselves up completely.
mm-hmm.
So it's nurturing us, making sure that we don't do that, but we still have to grow on our own. I think that's where we're at. And
Yeah,
it's when the entire culture, every part of the earth, Africa, India, Middle East, when everybody can collectively understand and need alien intervention, is when it could be accepted. Otherwise, it's going to be a suicidal, weird thing. They could destroy us. by, walking down the street, as Elon puts it.
I mean, and that's it. That's it. They're not already here, which there's proof of that as well. That they've been here since the beginning, and they have just never revealed themselves. But they've been here since the beginning. There's proof of that. So it's
Well, have you seen the Skinny Bob movies?
I think I have. I'm not 100% sure. I know that
It's
name.
just the alien that's blinking and looking at the camera. It's blinking and it's looking down and it's looking at the camera. Unbelievable. Let me tell you a story about that. Skinny Bob, look him up all over YouTube. In 1979, I was watching a documentary. I mean, in the 70s, there was not documentaries. If you saw a documentary, you waited a week to see it, right? It was about ancient aliens. Because there was only 12 channels and really only kind of like 5 that worked. Remember that? How old are you?
Before my time, I wasn't born until '88. So I mean, but I know it existed. I know it existed. I know it existed. So
yeah, there was like 6 channels that you can choose from. A documentary was like a brand new concept. Even I think it was Spock that actually started the ancient alien one. But anyhow, this one was particularly was showing the Skinny Bob video of this alien in black and white film. And they asked a Hollywood special effects maker, which everything was in camera. There was no digital anything back then. They asked him, "Is this real? Is this alien looking at real?" He says, "It could. We can't fake the finger movements. So when you put a finger this way like this, because you can see hands move this, they can't produce that. They can only produce in, not out." And
yeah,
he was validating visually that this thing was real. Okay, my experience of it was like, yeah, I'm not going to believe that either. It's it became wishy-washy. Well, that became a test for the government on American society to see if people were going to believe this or not. Just these footages, because they already knew that nobody would believe it. Well, that documentary doesn't exist anymore, and I've spoken to several people, including my father, that remembers it. So the Skinny Bob that you're going to look at on the YouTube probably today claimed to have came out in 11 from a Russian exposure. So I know the lie. It's like, what? I saw Skinny Bob back in 1979. So there's a cover up there. The cover.
interesting. Because I actually had a guest on my show who talked about the alien autopsy special in the '90s, and
yeah,
like that you no longer could find like real footage of, but he supposedly was the one who I had the guy on who supposedly exposed it, and he wrote a book about it, and he talked to a lot of people that were there and interviewed them. And I mean, and it's funny because when I put out that episode on YouTube, I had people immediately commenting on it saying this guy's a fraud, he doesn't blah blah blah, and I'm like, why would you be so fast to say that unless you're trying to disprove something?
right.
Like,
Yeah, their intention shows they're just trying to prove it. And they don't want to. That's because they're protecting their acknowledgement. Their ego needs to know that didn't happen.
yeah.
So there's an evolutionary process within that viewer. But I also got a chance to interview Glenn Denny, which was the surviving Roswell and the only really Roswell witness. Was the guy that drove the nurse to the base.
Yep.
I got to talk to him. He said he wished it never happened. It was one thing that I found surprising. But he spoke very calmly. He was the mortician, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Do you know about the more? Yeah, he was that guy. He was very, very just normal talking about all this stuff. And he remembers dropping her off. And this is after they canceled the 5 child size coffins, but he remembers picking her up, dropping her off, and there was a lot of chaos at the base, and then picking her up, and he was able to walk inside some way, got in there, and he remembers seeing one girl walking out of one room vomiting, and then the nurse came walking out of that room. She goes, "What are you doing in here?" they'll they'll kill you if you see anything. So they both quickly got out of there and went to a restaurant, and that's when she drew the eyes and the fingers and the head on a napkin for him. And he took her home and never saw her again. She got shipped off to some foreign country. She got one letter from him from a foreign country, and then everything else was returned to sender after that.
That's, I mean, that's 100% believable, but it's mind blowing. Like it's. I had a friend who interviewed the grandson of one of the farmers who was involved with Roswell, and like something definitely happened at Roswell that, I mean, they want to call it a hot air balloon as much as they want. It's never going to be true that it's a hot air balloon went down. Like that's like a weather balloon. That's stupid. Like, I mean, that was the worst excuse they could make.
Well, the media is evidence of that. Remember, they came out with this global announcement: we found a flying saucer, and then an hour later denied it. There's no reason to do that. They find balloons all the time, and they put the news out that, hey, we found a balloon. Not, oh no, it's a balloon, not a flying saucer. It's like obvious.
I mean, yeah, it's been disproven at this point that so many times that Roswell had to happen the way it's supposedly did for years. And
yeah,
I mean, when I was a kid, go ahead.
No, when you're a kid, I want to hear you talk.
When I was a kid, like Roswell was like one of those things like adults would tell you, like, oh, it didn't happen. Like it was a hot air balloon, and like school would tell you the same thing. And I'm reading all these books about it, and I'm like, it's not a hot air balloon. There's no way in hell it's a hot air balloon, even if these people don't want to come out and say it yet. It's not a hot air balloon. There's no way.
No.
But
and as you investigate Skinny Bob, he supposedly he's one of the survivors, the only survivor. And he lived for a year and a half. He lived for, the rumor is 6 months he could sit up, and then a year and a half was the complete length of his life. But he laid down for almost a year and then just passed away laying down, never eating any food. It's amazing. That's a rumor.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that, really am. But well, Mark, I thank you for coming on the show. That this conversation was amazing, and I wasn't even playing on the alien part at the end, but that just made it even more amazing. So hell, I should have figured a guy who's been in Hollywood or sci-fi would definitely want to bring that in. I should have figured that. But why don't you tell my audience where they could find your book and where they could find you?
Oh, I'm marklchristensen.com is my website. You can get Fungus Theory on Amazon. That's it so far, because I'm just starting out with all of this. But likewise, it's been a great opportunity to be open about it, and I thank you for that. You've got a very open mind, and you're looking for the answer. And that's what's great. Thanks, Jeremy.
Always looking for the answers. That's what this show's about. But
yeah,
everybody's got a different one. That's the fun part of it. there's details that are concrete across multiple people, but there's never a signifying theory that everybody agrees to. But
yeah,
it is what
you're doing your own kind of research by talking to so many different people. It must be really, really exciting, grounding for you in a lot of ways.
I keep saying I'm going to write one of these days. I'm going to write a book and kind of put all these theories I've heard in one book and give my theory at the end of it. But that's coming someday when I actually have time to sit and write. But we'll get there eventually, folks. I've been told it's predetermined that I'm going to do it, so now I kind of have to. God damn it!
And you have AI to help you accelerate that now.
I hate AI, and I would refuse to use it. I never would. To me, that would make my work false, and that would be against everything I stand for. But that's the reason I don't use any. I do not use any AI counterparts in any of my podcasts because I hate AI. It's with it, and I've voiced that opinion multiple times on the podcast. I hate it. But it makes. AI has disrupted the paranormal field in so many ways, just because we already had people questioning what's real and what's not real in the paranormal field, and now it's just AI is making the lines even more blurry. But folks, go check out Mark's book, and of course, the link to his site will be posted in the description for this for all you listeners. And you all know where to find me. If you don't by now, goddamn, it's been 3+ years, 4 years, maybe even. No, 3+ years. But go check the outro. It's all there. And, well, Mark, it's been a pleasure. And rest of you,
Jeremy,
enjoy the
same
rest of your
here.
weekend.
Hey,
Because
thank
you
you,
won't see me
Jeremy.
again.
Maybe we'll see you again on another paranormal podcast.
You never know. They find me everywhere. But I'll see you guys next time later this week, I believe.